Get your thumbs ready, because apparently Nintendo has been testing original Game Boy games for the Nintendo Switch. For some gamers, being able to play these classic games on a modern handheld gaming device will bring back a slew of memories and nostalgic feelings. So stay tuned and don't go away, because it's been confirmed that Game Boy games are coming to the Nintendo Switch. Here's what we know so far. First up, how is any of this even possible? One word: emulators. The recent news that Nintendo intends to add Game Boy games to the Nintendo Switch online library has gamers in an excited frenzy. Thanks to leaked information, we can confirm that Nintendo has developed emulators that will enable the Switch to play the classic games of the original Game Boy. And if I had $1 for every minute I played Tetris as a kid, I'd be a very wealthy man. And rumor has it that Nintendo will additionally add a Nintendo 64 transfer pack support in the future, which would add user connectivity between the N64 and Game Boy services. Nintendo has tested multiple N64 games for Game Boy connectivity, and one of the potential games that you might be able to play is Pokémon Stadium. In September of 2021, a Twitter post reported that Pokémon Stadium could be one of the releases for Switch Online's N64 service. According to insiders, N64 on Nintendo Switch Online will have a much larger library than N64 on Virtual Console. The leaked Nintendo GBA emulator is codenamed Sloop, and the Game Boy emulator is known as Hiyoko. As you can clearly see these days, Nintendo fans have a lot to be excited about. Next up, what is Game Boy Advance? You're about to find out. Game Boy Advance is home to some fantastic games, and depending on your age bracket, many of your fondest childhood memories might stem from playing the best GBA games on your indigo-colored handheld device. Pokémon Sapphire is another classic game that sticks out in the minds of fans. Other games such as Fire Emblem, The Sacred Stones, Kirby, and The Amazing Mirror, and Hamtaro, Ham Ham Games are all games that many people have very fond memories of. There are many Game Boy Advance games that Nintendo fans would love to be able to play on the Switch. Also, it can cost a lot of money and time to play these classic games in their original formats, so this is why gamers are so excited about the unofficial emulators. A selection of Game Boy Advance games will be digitally uploaded to the Switch, but the only question that remains is when. Over the years, Nintendo's lineup of consoles and handhelds has offered up several memorable games. The Switch is a hybrid console and is therefore a great home for older games. We've started to see a selection of games from past generations arrive on the Switch, and Nintendo Switch Online members can already play classic games from SNES and NES. And the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, although more expensive, offers subscribers an opportunity to play N64 and Sega Genesis games. A number of games, including Mario Golf 64, are one of the latest additions. Up next, will Game Boy Advance games be added to NSO the same way N64 games were added? Let's take a look. Game Boy Advance games will likely follow the same path as the N64 additions to NSO, and if that's the case, it would help Nintendo make the more premium expansion pack membership more appealing to users. The Game Boy Advance is one device that many fans hold dear, and it would be great for gamers to revisit those classic games and see just how good they really were. It'll be nice to see such games come to the latest console, especially now that the Nintendo 3DS will be closing down for good in March of 2023. Thanks to the 3DS's Virtual Console, gamers were able to revisit classic Game Boy games like Kirby's Dream Land. When the 3DS shuts down, it'll be harder to access some of the older handheld games officially, and this is why seeing more emulators on Switch is important. Many of the classic Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are a part of Nintendo's history and ought to be available for players to experience and enjoy. For example, The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap is one game that fans have always wanted to try out, so if it pops up on the Switch, that'll be terrific. There's also a renewed interest in all things retro these days. Reboots and remasters of classic games are all the rage these days. For the generations of players who missed out on the Game Boy and GBA back in the day, the Switch is their opportunity to give these games a try. Stay tuned and don't go away, because we're revealing everything we know about Game Boy games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online library. Next up, is there any truth to all these rumors? You're about to find out. Not everyone is convinced the rumors suggesting that Nintendo Switch Online subscribers would gain access to games they were originally released on Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are true. The rumors have gained momentum ever since Nintendo has developed emulators for the system. According to one Twitter user, @TrashBandandCoot, 4 files have been leaked, and the emulators appear to have been created by NERD, which stands for Nintendo European Research and Development. The NERD team has handled other emulators used on Switch in the the past. @Trash Bandicoot went on to reveal that the emulators are functional but still have a few bugs. But according to some gaming insiders, gamers should take this with a grain of salt. Why? Because Nintendo has still not provided any official confirmation, but this does seem to be the strongest evidence so far that Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games will be added to Nintendo Switch Online. Unfortunately, however, there's no way of knowing whether the games would be included in Nintendo Switch Online's basic subscription plan or as part of the more expensive expansion pack, and in all honesty, it's likely that it will be the latter. If we look at the basic subscription plan, it gives users access to games that were first released on NES and SNES. The expansion pack, on the other hand, currently offers games that were first released on N64 and Sega Genesis. Up next, if the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance crossover to Nintendo Switch Online does happen, what are some of the games you could expect to see? Let's take a look. As we alluded to earlier, the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance consoles both featured a number of beloved games over the years, and the emulators give us some hints about several classic games that are potentially coming to the platform. Twitter user @TrashBandicoot showed a leaked image that shows some of the potential games. Games like Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, Golden Sun, Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire, and too many more to list here. If Nintendo is bringing these games to the Nintendo Switch Online platform, it's unclear how many would be available at launch and which ones would be added over time. Hopefully, Nintendo offers some kind of official announcement soon so that we can get rock-solid confirmation and put all these rumors to bed. But there are other games from Nintendo 64 and Sega Mega Drive that were just added to Nintendo Switch Online, and they're games that retro gamers are going to absolutely love. We're talking about Sonic Spinball, Space Harrier 2, and Shining Force 2. After weeks of speculation over what Nintendo was up to, it revealed plans for the NSO expansion pack. Games such as Animal Crossing and Mario Kart were also recently added as well, but you can now play Sonic Spinball on Switch, and its sequel, Space Harriers 2 and Shining Force 2. For those of you who don't know, Shining Force is a tactical RPG, and Space Harrier was one of the first games to launch on the Mega Drive. Finally, what does the addition of games like Sonic Spinball and Space Harrier 2 and Shining Force tell us about what Nintendo is up to? The addition of these classic games tells us that Nintendo is digging deep in Sega Mega Drive's retro catalog. If you're unfamiliar with either of these games, you can check out some of these awesome gameplay clips. Confirmation that the N64 and Mega Drive libraries would be updated with these new games came within hours of this video recording, and retro gaming fans are losing their minds with anticipation at the prospect of being able to play these much-loved games. Sonic the Hedgehog Spinball is a 2D side-scroller type pinball-themed game where the player must guide Sonic, who is essentially the pinball, through several levels. While Sonic is curled into a ball, players use flippers to launch Sonic upward and/or across several levels. And while Sonic is not curled up into a ball, his moves resemble those from the main title in the Sonic game franchise. Sonic is able to walk around on the floors of the pinball table-based levels and can also jump, duck, and perform the Super Spin Dash. So cool. Throughout the game, the player's objective is to collect Chaos Emeralds, which are hidden in various locations throughout the levels. Each level has a different amount of emeralds to collect, and you have no choice whether you'd like to collect them or not, because collecting them all is the only way you'll be able to fight the boss of the level and proceed further into the game. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you for watching.